Breeze Nation, what is good? It is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love to another edition of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Listen, I'm B. Roji. There's nothing to talk about. If you see people dropping videos on breaking news on the Chicago Bears, they're lying. So I figured, why not do an episode where an old school Breeze style episode, how we used to do the Pat and the People episodes, right? Where I just chop it up with you guys. We have a good time. We sit here. I got a little drink on me. I'll grab a couple of more as the stream goes on, man. I'm just here to chop it up with the audience because there's absolutely nothing going on until we get to the end of this week. Then everything is going to hit the fan, and you are going to see the Chicago Bears rookies report. Going to see vets report. I believe the veterans report Monday. I think the rookies report Saturday. But yeah, man, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Big shout out to you guys for tuning in and showing love. I'm so excited for next week to finally get here, dog, because the reality is, right, like there's so much hope. There's so much excitement. There's so much that you can put around this team. And say, hey, like, I think that this is going to happen. This is what it looks like on paper. But y'all remember, you know, what our schedule looked like going into the season last year, where we're like, yo, this is going to be a gauntlet. We're going to face the dregs of we're going to be at war. And then half the quarterbacks died. So I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how this Bears team bounces back now with expectation. I talked with Yurko on today's Chicago Bears podcast about, you know, how are the Bears going to deal with being the hunted. I just asked him flat out, like, is Hunter and hunted a media thing? You know, the media is always, you know, listen, or I should say, I don't want to say the media, because I mean, I am the media, right? Like, I guess, yeah, I've had the conversation. The media always wants to come out and be like, oh, who's the hunter? Who's the hunted? How are they going to deal with being hunted? I was like, is that even real? Is that a conversation that even affects players as they go through their day? He was like, absolutely not. What we deal with is you're creating an internal pressure to be better. You're creating an internal situation to improve yourself day over day. None of what the hunter or the hunted is pressure that actually creeps into the mind of these players. So I thought that it was very interesting just hearing that perspective, hearing the perspective of a player who has been on teams that have been absolutely squalor and then turned into the successful teams. I think this camp is going to be very interesting, because I would almost say that Ben Johnson might end up pushing them even harder this time around, for the simple fact that he doesn't want the team to end up in this place of complacency. I think that there's a very real situation that the training camp that we saw last year that was extremely difficult, that was continuously hard-hitting, continuously put in place to help these young men who are just getting into Ben Johnson's system, not only get the system quickly, but also understand some of the toughest struggles that you're going to go through as you go into the upcoming season. I think he's going to top even that. You know what I mean? Like, because there's going to be a part of this where Ben Johnson is going to say, we're going to make sure that there's no shot that complacency leaks into this team. We're going to make sure that there is zero chance that anybody comes into the season and goes, you know what? I truly believe that I got it all figured out. And I think that that just comes with your coach kind of resetting the standard, realigning the standard, and putting you in a position where you're going to get called out for a lot of stuff that I think is what's a good way to say it? You're going to get called out for a lot of stuff that should come second nature to you. If you're not doing those things well, and it's stuff that you dealt with last year, it's stuff that you talked about last year, that's where you're going to see, why are you walking with that long face right there? My wife just walked in the room, dropped off a package, and tiptoed out. But you're going to see, you know, this true to life situation of, hey, you're going to have more Bears that are moved on from. You're going to have guys that you thought were going to be key pieces of this team as we get into camp. And Ben Johnson's going to see the attitude that they come with, and he's going to go, oh, well, you thought you were a starter. Well, guess what? You're not giving me 110% effort. So we're going to make this change on this day going into the next day of camp. I think that stuff that we have seen this Bears team do. I think that is stuff that we have seen Ben Johnson do in his time. And I don't think that anybody is safe going into this outside of a guy like Caleb Williams, who you expect to work with that same standard that you saw from him last season. Shout out to you guys for tuning in and joining up, man. Jay Grizz in the chat, he said, Pat, you're a man of the people. 100%, man. 100%. I love coming on here and just chopping it up with y'all, bro. Like, I don't have nothing massive or serious to drop on y'all, man. I'm just having a conversation. The Shy coming in with a basketball question first, which is absolutely insane with training camp a week away. We're starting things off with a basketball question. Is Sellers better than Swain? I don't know. Neither of them have hooped against real NBA players. Y'all fall in love with guys that show out versus G League players. And, you know, whether that's you or not, whether it's just, you know, general fans or not, like, it's kind of like this situation with the Bears. You know what I mean? People fall in love with the camp bodies. People fall in love with the guys that show out in training camp when the pads aren't on. People fall in love with the guys that have big plays when you know, the defense can't go out there and hit as hard. Stop falling in love with those moments. Even if it is kind of doing what I do, where you literally have to tell yourself, yo, I get that you're excited, but take 10% off. Because as we come into camp, there's going to be somebody, there's going to be some player, there's going to be, and this is for both camps, for the Bulls and the Bears. There's going to be someone out there who is going to wow you, and you're going to go, that guy has to have a spot on the team, and you're going to be confused and upset at the end of camp when he's not on the team or when he's cut or when he's on the practice squad. Because the reality of the situation is these coaches understand. I love how Dan Campbell talked about it last year. Dan Campbell was like, I'm sick of y'all asking me questions about camp. Or no, that was this year. He was talking about OTAs. I'm sick of y'all asking me questions about OTAs. None of this matters. We're just meeting the guys. We're getting a workout in. That's all this is. That's kind of how I feel when people make hardline opinions on summer league, when people make hardline opinions on training camp, when people training camp days where they're in shells, I should say, when people make hardline opinions on a player who is playing in the third quarter of a preseason game. They're doing those things for a reason, because they're not good enough to be in the moments that are the most important yet. Mr. LC said, are you expecting anything from Jahdae Walker this season? I am expecting a lot from Jahdae Walker this season, because you got an opportunity last year to prove that you belong in this league, and I think you did a pretty good job of it. You got an opportunity to go out there and prove that you are a capable wide receiver in the NFL in clutch moments. That means a lot. That's not something that you can take away from him, right? He's got the game tying touchdown versus the Green Bay Packers that ends up sending the Bears to overtime. He's got some big catches, you know, in the middle of the game and in regular season mode. Like, he's got moments that you feel good about Jahdae Walker. But you know what? Last season was last season. And so, yeah, I do have expectations and some high hopes for Jahdae Walker this upcoming season. But you got to go out there and prove it. You got to prove that you deserve the time and opportunity again, because I tell you what, Xavier don't look like he's coming here to not try and dominate. Khalif Raymond is a pro in this league that knows his job, knows how to do his job, and can do his job very, very well. You don't just get gifted your role because you had some nice pop-up games last season. For me, with Jahdae Walker, prove why you deserve to get the bulk of the snaps. Prove why the fourth round wide receiver that just came in shouldn't replace you, because the reality of the situation is there's too many mouths to feed. There's too many mouths to feed. I think the wide receiver room in general is second fiddle to Colston Loveland. And then you get to the wide receivers, and you're talking about Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Khalif Raymond. That's three veterans already ahead of you. I haven't even gotten to the guys that already have proved that they're pass catchers in this league on the team outside of the top three. And then you get to your Jade Walkers. Then you get to your, your draft picks and things like that. Like there's a long mountain for you to climb. Now, here's the thing about Jade that I love. I think he has all the talent in the world. I think he's got the right mindset. I think that he is an absolute dog when you give him that opportunity. But you got to earn that opportunity. You're not just going to get it. You don't just get gifted that chance because you made some plays last year. There's guys that have game-winning catches that don't have another catch after that game-winning catch. There's wide receivers that have big moments that we remember as a big moment in history, and they weren't the focal point of a team. All of that is earned. And so my expectation for Jade Walker coming into this season is earn the right to be on the field again. Force Ben Johnson to go, I can't take him off of the field. I would love to see that. What do we got? Is that Don Burr? Is that Don Burr? Not last place Don Burr in the building, still beating his chest. What's up, Don? How you doing, bro? Pat, do you think we are doomed to see Braxton Jones, the Molar? Braxton the Molar Jones starting at left tackle. Here's what I would say about Braxton Jones. And me and JC talked about this on another video where we were kind of breaking down, what we want to see from the core positions heading into this week. I think that it right now feels like it's Braxton's job to lose. Does that mean that he won't lose it? The odds are against him. You know why? Because he's lost it before. But I think right now you're living in a world where it's Braxton Jones's job to lose. And if Braxton Jones ends up winning out the job over Jedrick Wills, who I think is a more talented player, but maybe isn't as healthy, already proving not to be nearly as healthy. If Braxton Jones isn't able to win the job over him, then I think you've got your answer. But if he is, it seems like no matter the situation, all roads lead back to Braxton. If he is, I don't look at that and go, oh, God, this is the end of the world. There's no way that the Bears can bounce back from this. I also think that you have a quarterback that has really good sack avoidance and showed that last season. I also think that you have a guy next to him in Joe Thuney who's going to understand and be able to help Braxton even more than he was able to help him last year, because Braxton has an understanding of the system and he's got a guy standing next to him who knows how to play with him. Right? So I think that Braxton comes in this season with a little bit more advantage than maybe what he had last year. But I also look at it as, look, like if you're the best of the bunch, that's not a good spot for you to be either. If you're just the next best name, that's not a great spot for you to be in either. And that's kind of how it feels with Braxton Jones right now. Not that he is immensely talented, not that he is a shoo-in to win this job, but that of the options available, hey, you're the best we got. We'll roll with you. It is what it is. We'll figure it out until Ozzie comes back. Braxton, can you change the mind of the people who are around you? If he can, I think he's dangerous. I think he's got, and by dangerous, I mean, I think if he can change the mind of the people that are working with him right now, Braxton Jones could win that left tackle job. I think there's a lot of people who are underestimating the injury that Braxton Jones had, or I'm sorry, that Ozzie Trapilo has. I just do. I think that it's going to be, when you look at the numbers on it, when you look at the numbers on the kind of injury that Ozzie is dealing with right now, people don't come back from it. Like the best case scenario that we're hoping for is he comes back as, a maybe different version of himself, but is able to get back on the field and still be effective. There's a large chunk of the population that deals with a torn patellar tendon that doesn't touch the field again. There's another portion of that does touch the field and gets their butts kicked because you can't get into the same kind of stands. We can bury our heads in the sand on that conversation if we want to, but if we're being real about this, if we're being honest about this, there's a real chance that Ozzy Trapilo won't be able to hit the field and be that level of player again. And that would suck because it puts you back in left tackle limbo. That would absolutely suck. Crimson said that's the part that worries me. Bears Junkie said, do you see Roschon Johnson making the team this year? You know what? When you talk about bubble players, it depends on if Roschon is healthy or not. If Roschon's healthy, he'll be a special teams player. Roschon's really good at special teams. Like when you watch him on the tape, he really stands out on film as a guy who I think can come down and make some really solid blocks, who can come down and open up a lane for you. He was a very physical running back anyway. He really does remind me of, who's old boy that we just had? I think we had him last year, but he was hurt most of the year. We've had him for a couple of years. Not Kari Blasingame. He was the running back that was from Seattle. And for some reason, his name's escaping me, mostly because he's not out there actually, making plays. Either way, y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm sure somebody in the chat will say it. But Roschon Johnson has all the talent in the world for that role that he's in. But Roschon can't stay on the field. And so I think if Roschon gets hurt in camp, Roschon's gone. I don't even think he's a bubble guy. I think Roschon is right now on the outside of the bubble looking in because of the injuries. I think that if Ben Johnson had to give you a list of names of guys that he was planning to cut today, Roschon Johnson's name will be at the top of that list. Just because you haven't been available. You haven't been on the field. I can't utilize you if you're not available and not on the field. Now, if he gets through camp and he's healthy, Roschon's talent will shine through and prove that, he belongs at least on special teams, and maybe you can use him in some small running back roles, or if somebody gets hurt, he's a capable back out of the backfield. But I would be very shocked, one, if Roschon does make it through camp and is healthy and is just, nothing's wrong and he's just ready to go. And two, if by the end of camp he's still on the team. Travis Homer, that was the name I was looking for. Say Shy City said, I'm just glad Travis Homer is gone. He made the team as a special teams ace, but was always hurt. That's the name I was looking for, Travis Homer. That's the one that's kind of exactly how I feel about a Roschon Johnson. I think you're talented. I think you can help on special teams. I think that that even if they need to utilize you in some offensive roles, that you have the ability to do so. But I can't use you if you're hurt. Inception said, thoughts on Terrell Smith taking Stevenson's job? Pre-injury last year, he would have been CB2. I can't say that Terrell Smith is going to come in and take Reek's job, just because I don't know how healthy or how quickly he's going to bounce back when you get back to real football activities. You know what I mean? Like when you get back to real football activities, it takes you a minute to kind of get up to speed. Also, Terrell Smith didn't really have enough time in there, I don't think, to get the system down. Wasn't playing. That was a crazy challenge. I'm sitting there watching this Cardinals game. That was an insane challenge. I don't think that Terrell Smith was there long enough either for you to say that, or got to play in games and things like that for him to actually see what he looked like in the system. Now, do I think that because of everything that goes into Tyreek, that maybe they'll be a little bit more interested in having Terrell Smith as the cornerback too. Maybe. Nobody's safe on this team. I've said that a ton. Nobody is safe on this team. Jalen Johnson may not be safe on this team if he doesn't return to form. We've heard what Ben Johnson has already said about Kyler Gordon. Ben Johnson's already come out and talked about Kyler Gordon and said, look, like, yeah, he seems like a heck of a player, but there's no trust built with him because he hasn't been on the field. So when you start to deal with that, that's where this really could turn into a tough situation where, like, yeah, I think that Terrell Smith has the talent, and I think that Terrell Smith could be a name that you look at as a really solid number 2 DB next to Jalen Johnson. But I also think that if I'm just talking about talent and upside, Tyrique Stevenson probably has more of that to be able to give, but he's got a shorter leash because of his antics. That's what really all of this comes down to. Can Tyreek not be a knucklehead? That's the part. I swear, like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with some of this, but, like, I swear the thing for me with Reek is, my God, does he have talent? He's got speed. He's got size. He's got hands. He's got everything you would want. He's going to bite at a double move. But for the most part, he's got everything you want. And the kind of DB that I like is one that is willing to stick that finger 1 inch from your eye. And I'm not talking literally. I'm talking about being an irritant and annoy the mess out of you. I love that kind of DB. And he is that kind of DB. But he doesn't know how not to cross that line. One thing that I heard a player say one time, he was like, listen, you want to talk trash, you want to be physical, but you don't want to let the game overtake you. You want to be a part of the game. You don't want the game to be you. And essentially what he's meaning is, right, like, don't get so caught up in this back and forth that you're having within the game with whoever the receiver is across from you that you lose yourself or you forget the importance of the play that you're in. I would love to believe that Reek is sitting there and he's watching tape and he's going, oh, I can't believe that I did that in Washington. I learned that lesson. I'll never do it again. But then you smack us in the face as people that defended you, and you immediately did it again in the first big moment that they put you back in on. And then on top of that, when they do put you back in, you're getting cooked because you're not locked in. Those are the players that I look at and I'm just like, bro, it's no way that you're going to F up this opportunity because I see so much talent. But sometimes the mind and the maturity ain't there. And I'm hoping that this is if he gets the maturity right this year, he's dangerous. That's the reality. If he gets the maturity right this year, he's a dangerous player for you to have. He really is. Yo, hit that like button if you have not done so. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as always, man. Just sitting here answering some of you guys' questions, man. Drop any questions in the chat that you may have, man. We appreciate y'all rocking with us and staying tapped in with us. Seishai City said he had a 3-4 game stretch last year when we thought Stevenson had put it all together and got hurt and lost concentration. But that can't happen. It can't be you having it, because here's the thing that we don't get to see and that we're not privy to see, even though we get to go out there as the media and we get to see parts of practice. There are, of course, parts that we don't get to see. There are, of course, parts that we are not a part of. And I think that something had to happen in that part of the game to where Dennis Allen didn't even want to go back to Tyreek. Remember, there was a couple of weeks there at the end where Tyrique Stevenson, not only was he not being brought back off of the injury report. But even when he was back, they were benching him for players that, call it how you want it, they were worse than him. They were benching him for guys that were not as good of a player as he was, especially in coverage. CJ was nowhere near as good in coverage as Tyrique Stevenson was. And yet they opted to roll with him and full-on backups. I mean, full-on backups. What else we got? Shout out to you guys for tuning in and showing love. Dark City said, low key, the Vikings have the best team in the NFC North. If Kyler puts it all together, I don't disagree with you. Every year that because the weakness that I think you would say of that Vikings team is probably right now quarterback and then that defensive line, just kind of with some players that have proven a little bit, but you kind of got to see it again. Every year that we doubt the coaching staff getting those positions right, they find a way to do so. So I would agree with you that that's as far as danger goes, the Vikings are probably the most dangerous team in the North, because the thing that we're relying on, or that Vikings fans, I should say, are relying on, and that the Vikings team and staff are relying on, position-wise improving. Those are the two things that those coaches improve the best. When you talk about the best, you talk about Brian Flores. When you talk about KOC, Kevin O'Connell, Kevin O'Connell has brought in quarterbacks that people literally went, ha ha, you brought in who? That guy's dead. He's, snap, 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and you're the best team in the North and you made the playoffs? Dang it. An underperforming defensive line. We know dang it. Y'all lead the division in sacks and actually are top 5 in the league in pressure on quarterbacks. And the only people that are able to get the best of you are guys like Matthew Stafford, who won MVP last year. That's tough. I continue to say I'm more concerned about the Vikings than I am any team within this division. I think that the Lions will be a tough team. I think that they'll be at the top of the division yet again, fighting with the Bears up there because last place schedule. I just think they're better than the schedule that they're playing, and they're going to take advantage of that, which shout out to them for that. I think that they're going to go out there and they're going to be, Jared Goff, knowing who his center is coming into the season, is going to be more impactful. Defensively, I think they are going to take a hit. But if you're telling me, one team's going to bounce back, give me the team that's playing the 4th place schedule within the division. But hey, I'll be honest with you, bro. Like, when I look at Green Bay is who they are. And they are who they are, is who they are, who they are. Green Bay is who they are. I believe that's the right way to say it. Because they keep going to war with the same pieces and asking for a different result. The biggest change that Green Bay made last season isn't even going to play for most of this season. The biggest difference in Green Bay's game this season isn't even playing for most of the season this season. That's Micah Parsons. Outside of that, do I think that Jordan Love's going to be great during Toyotathon? 100%. He always is. Do I think that the Packers are going to be a tough battle within the division? Sure. They always are a tough battle within the division, and that's why this division is one of the toughest in football. Do I think they're going to be the 7th seed? 100%. It's why the mugs at ESPN Milwaukee, like, they get on my nerves because it's becoming almost gimmicky. Every other week you're talking about the Ben Brust and Kyle up there every other week. That's how we're not worried about the Bears. We don't even think about the Bears. But let me tell you why the Bears aren't good. I was dying laughing when that list came out from what was that from the ESPN put it out, but it was from GMs, scouts, and coaches around the NFL. And Caleb Williams made the top 10 quarterbacks list based off of them. And I was just dying laughing at the amount of people that don't care about these lists and don't care about these numbers and don't care about these metrics that saw Caleb's name on that list and went, how could you ever put him over Jordan Love? Let me tell you all the ways that the Bears aren't really a threat to us. These ain't your same old Bears. This is not the same group that y'all are used to beating up on. And they come in with a very, very different mindset than anything that you have seen in the past. They're not saying we're going to get our best defense versus your best offense, and let's go to war. They're saying, let's go mano a mano. Let's see who can put up more points and who's going to get more stops. Let's see who can out-scheme who. What's that one video where old boy was like, you bring your gun, I bring my gun, y'all, we going to die together. What was that video? What he said? That? He said, we go to the parking lot. We gonna bang out. We die. Yeah, I mean, like that's the mindset that Ben Johnson is going to war with every day. And I think that gives the Bears an advantage that they haven't had in a long time because so many coaches, for some reason, wanted to act like this rivalry didn't matter. Like I truly look at this division as yet again the toughest division in football. But also, I look at it as one that the Bears have a real opportunity to take advantage of if they can, you know what, and get off the pot early in this season. Because there's going to be a lot of people limping through at the start of the season. They won't be limping by the time these games are going to be the most important because you play all three of these mugs to finish your season. What is it? 3 out of your final 4 games versus the division? You got to take advantage early. Because I think by the end of the season, Kyler Murray's going to know the system and he's going to be dangerous. I think by the end of the season, the Lions are going to be in a position to, win the North. And I think by the end of the season, you're still going to be talking about the Packers, who will have probably a few weeks before that just gotten back Micah Parsons back on the field. And we know what kind of damage that Micah Parsons can do when he's out there. Slimbo Boogie said, pencil me in for projecting Swift and Monangai combined for over 1,600 total yards. Listen, like, I guess if you're including receiving and everything in there, that's possible. I think it's going to be tough for Kyle Monangai to get the same number of carries as Swift this upcoming season, unless you're dealing with some injuries from DeAndre Swift. Because remember, a good chunk of the carries that Monangai got were in games where DeAndre Swift wasn't active and he was able to step up, end up having 186 yards, a couple of touchdowns in that game. Like, to me, I think that you're going to see Kyle Monangai in a role as a backup. Kyle Monangai's rushes weren't the same as DeAndre Swift's last year. And if Swifty is able to come out and give you the level of production that he gave you last year, as far as pass catching as well, because now I think you're going to be in a situation where you're splitting Colston Loveland out wide. And so now your underneath person isn't going to be your tight end. Your underneath person is going to be, your underneath player is going to be DeAndre Swift and or Kyle Monangai. Monangai has to have the hands and has to find a way. I think that this is a real issue that the Bears are going to be dealing with. Kyle Monangai is short enough. And Caleb Williams, Caleb's not short, right? Caleb's probably 6'1", 6'2"-ish, probably more 6'2"-ish, because he's definitely taller than me. I I think there's a real disconnect with the height of those two when the linemen are standing up, and that's why Monangai is not as involved in the passing game when he's on the field. Like, that's a real thing that, like, Caleb just has to know, okay, Kyle's got to be right there. And there's going to be times where he's going to just have to throw to a spot for the check down or take it himself. Kyle had 780 last year and Swift had 1,000. Yeah, I think that, you know, you're going to be dealing with a quarterback that knows the passing game better this year, and I think that's going to lead to more passing. The one thing that does concern me about Ben Johnson, and I love just about everything about Ben Johnson, but the aggression in the passing game, especially with a QB you can trust, has gotten him into trouble. How many times last season were we 3rd and 1 and we're not running the football? How many times last season were we 3rd and goal and we just need to punch across for 1 yard and we're like, this is when you give it to Kyle Monangai, and we see Caleb Williams dropping back and he gets sacked in the backfield. See, we look at Ben Johnson as if Ben Johnson is a finished product. Ben's learning too. Ben's figuring it out too. And there's going to be a massive learning curve when it comes to the situational runs that are going to be very important, that could lead to touchdowns, could lead to yards and things like that. That I think has plagued Ben Johnson over the last 3.5 seasons, 4 seasons. Like, it's not new. Ben Johnson lost in the playoffs. The defense definitely helped, but because he wasn't trying to run the clock out, he was trying to put his foot on their throats, and he was throwing the football when you should have been running it. We know that. Ben Johnson lost last year in the playoffs for the Chicago Bears. I was speaking of when he was with Detroit there for a second, but he lost last year in the playoffs with the Chicago Bears because he was being aggressive in moments where it was like, I don't need you to chuck this thing downfield. How about we just try and get down here, kill some clock, put yourself in a good situation, and then you go for your kill shot. But when you see the kill shot work, sometimes you're addicted to the kill shot. And so my hope is that we see a version of Ben Johnson this upcoming year that is better and learned last year from the situational play calling. But I don't know. Swift or Jonathan Taylor, with both contracts ending this season, who are you going after? Who's a good rookie? I don't want to get me started on running back conversation. Who's a good rookie? DeAndre Swift contract is up at the end of this season. I wish him nothing but the best with the future team that he's on. Kyle Monangai is now your starting linebacker or starting running back, and let's find out who a good rookie is. Who's your change of pace back that you're drafting? Listen, I'm different. My mindset is different. I kind of go with the mindset that the Seattle Seahawks have. I more so would rather see you spend money on your defensive line or your offensive line if you should so need a left tackle moving forward than I would rather see you go out and sign another running back. Because at the end of the day, running back ain't gonna save you. Them offensive linemen will, though. That's what I want to see the Bears invest in. I want to see this team be offensive line strong for years to come. I want to see this team have a defensive line that you have to fear. I can fit a running back in. Look at this season. When Muggs wanted to go get a running back, they were able to get David Montgomery. David Montgomery's a pretty freaking good running back. But when you needed, when you finally went, yo, we feel comfortable, which I don't agree with how they did it. I think they need to get their offensive line in order. But I feel like when you finally feel comfortable, you've got your team in order and you say, yo, we need a running back, you go draft him. Or if you need to find him, he's available. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl. I mean, legitimately. What do you have in the Super Bowl? I'd be hating that it takes me to that. God dang you, Brave. Let's see. Not Super Bowl appearances. Just take me to the last game. 2026. Seahawks last year behind Kenneth Walker in the Super Bowl, 135 rushing yards. And he had, let's see, boom. Did he get a touchdown in that? I don't think he did get a touchdown. 45-yard interception. Jacoby Myers, 26-yard. Probably not, right? Because, no, he didn't end up with a touchdown. 135 behind your running back. He was the MVP of the Super Bowl. And they got to that boy at the end of the year and said, we appreciate you for playing the work version of our game. We love you. We think that, we appreciate you helping us get a ring. Hey, you have a great life, brother. We're going to go try and revamp this defense up. We're going to get a rookie and a vet that's already on the roster, and we're going to figure this thing out. Like, to me, that's how you operate with the running back position. Is it loyal? No. Is it sad to see sometimes? 100%. But I look at that more as the right way to do it because you're continuing to invest in more important positions on the field. And you know, if you've got the offensive line to create so, which you still do with Sam Darnold, you've got the offensive line to create so, you're going to create holes that guys can run through. What else we got in the chat today, man? Drop your questions if you haven't done so. Hit that like button if you haven't done so. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. TLR Camp says, I believe the Bears will go 2-4 in the division. I love the Bears, but I'm just being honest. Look, the division is tough. Now, I will say this. I look at this Bears team as a team that learns from its mistakes. What you watched last season was a team that found ways to overcome and found ways to learn from its mistakes on a fairly consistent basis. And that's very important when you're trying to get to that next step or get to that next level. If this Bears team, and I think you got to ask this question of yourself. Do you believe that this Bears team can do this? But if this Bears team can correct the mishaps that they had in the first and second quarters of most of the games this season, how much more dangerous are they? How much more dangerous? I think the easy one is to say how much more dangerous is the offense. How much more dangerous is this defense? How many leads did this defense play with last year? How many double-digit leads did this defense have at any point last season? How often were they able to just pin their ears back and say, you know what? Our goal is the quarterback in a 3rd and long situation. I'll never forget Deshaun Wright. I was standing there talking to him, and he told me, he was like, listen, bro, like, if they get us in 3rd and long, we know exactly where they're going. If they get us in 3rd and long, we got all the blueprint. Or if we get them into 3rd and long, we got all the blueprints to their game. We know exactly where the ball is going. And you can see it in 3rd and long, they were able to dominate. They could pick the football up if teams were passing in situations like that. There was still some miscues that popped up, especially late in the season when some injuries started to play their way in there. But like early in that year in 3rd and long, the Bears were a pretty good football team. The problem is, more times than not, that defense was operating in a 3rd and 3 situation. The problem is, more times than not, that defense was operating in we got to get a stop here at the as they're in 3 or less, and they're going for it on 4th down because they have that little belief in our defensive line to actually go out there and be able to get a stop. That's what I think changes this upcoming season if the Chicago Bears are just able to operate well in 1st and 2nd quarters. That if they're able to do that within the division, I think the Bears will have at a minimum a 500 record and could be 4-2. Because you had all of these teams in your crosshairs at the end of the game. And all I kept being reminded of was, boy, if you start 10 minutes earlier, or if you start at the beginning of this game, you are a difference maker. We haven't seen that in a while here in Chicago, defensively, where the defense is putting you in these phenomenal situations that you just got to take advantage of. We haven't seen that much. Last quarterback to have that is what? Mitch? Mitch had a great situation. That's kind of it. What do we got here? Who is this? My fault, y'all. I got to zoom this joint in. Because I'm blind. Devontae said, what do you think about Poles saying he wants faster DBs so the QB can hold the ball longer? I've talked about this a ton. I would love for Ryan Poles to prove me wrong. I would love for Ryan Poles to prove me wrong. But that's a bad way to build a football team. It just is. That's a bad way to build a football team. Nothing about that is logical. We don't care about the big guys up front getting to the quarterback because we're going to have fast DBs that can keep up with wide receivers. That's just, it's not realistic. At a certain point, the fast wide receiver, for one, he has the advantage. He doesn't have to mirror your steps. He can take you wherever he wants to take you on the field within the design of the play. And if we're at 7, 8, 9 seconds and you still ain't got to the quarterback, which did happen last season for this defensive line, I don't care if it's the best DBs in the world. I don't care if it's Revis Island out there. An opening is going to be created, and all of these quarterbacks within the league, at least all of the ones that you play this year, you give them that much time, they'll pick you apart. So look, I hope he's saying that with the mindset of, well, they just didn't see Shamar Turner yet, and that's what's going to make the biggest difference this upcoming season, that Shamar is going to be able to create pressure, and Montez now understands the system, and so he's going to be able to go out there and dominate in the system and create more pressure, and you're going to get a bounce back here from Grady J. I hope he's saying that with those things in mind. Because if you're not, you're you're going to have problems defensively. I don't believe that this defense is going to be good. I think that this defense will be a bottom third defense in the NFL. Now, you build leads, you get ahead, you put yourself in good positions. That can change things for you. But I think you're going to be in shootouts most of the games, and so you're going to be a bottom third defense within the NFL. I don't know if it's going to be the same as the Sim. The Sims have gotten crazy with some of this. The Sims have gotten absolutely insane with some of this. Inception said, what is the likelihood that we sign Christian Wilkins this season after being a year removed from the NFL? I'm assuming you mean. How old is Christian Wilkins? 27? How old is Christian Wilkins? Christian Wilkins is... Oh, no. Christian Wilkins is 31? Is he that old? He'll be 31 this year. Shout out Christian Wilkins. At 31, it might be over. At 31, it might be over. Just because of the weird situation surrounding it. For those of y'all that don't know kind of his situation, apparently he kissed a teammate on the top of the head. And this was not the first time that you know, something out of pocket for what they perceived was out of pocket in the locker room had happened. And I think it was Vegas ended up removing him from the roster after, you know, early in very quickly in the season. At 30, I think it's going to be tough for you to bounce back from that, even with the talent that you do have. It's leagues blackball you in a sense when it comes to stuff like that, especially the fact that he wasn't signed means it's something that was a concern when he was in, what was he, Minnesota? It was something that was a concern when he was within previous regimes, and this probably wasn't strike one. This more than likely was strike three. Now, talent-wise, would I like him on the roster? Sure. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I don't know all the behind-the-scenes details, but the fact that he wasn't in the league at all last year is very telling of where you're probably at on people's... I'm willing to, for lack of a better term, is the juice worth the squeeze to bring a player like this in? There has to be something that we're missing that we're not privy to. Because Christian Wilkins, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, also with Miami, right? Also was with Miami. Where was he at? God dang, this Brave. Oh, God. I'm on the Brave browser now because it uses so much less RAM, and I love that. Hayes put me on with this. But I'm so used to just searching things, and it pops up. It takes me to Google because I'm on Google Chrome. That whenever I search stuff now, it doesn't take me to Google Chrome. So he wasn't with Vegas. I don't know why I remember Vegas in this. So he was with Miami. Then he got traded to Vegas. He was there for 5 games, and then they moved on from him as well. But he was coming off of he had 2 sacks, 1.5, 4.5, 3.5, 9 sacks that final year in Miami, and he had 2 through 5 games in Vegas early on in the season. Production had kind of was a little bit down there, but like 2 through 5 probably lands you around 6 or 7 throughout most of the season, which is very good from an interior player. He was a, you know, more in the middle of the defensive line. So I think that plays into that conversation as well. But like, I just, there's something that we don't know that no team touched him last year. And we're probably not going to know. Devontae said, why all of the Clemson players freaky? Ain't that a religious school? Write your own joke there. Mr. LC said, "You're wrong, Pat. We got Motivated Dial." Motivated Dial was cooking on the last. Motivated Dial was cooking on the last sim that we had. I think he had 2 sacks, both of them in very crucial moments for the team. So hopefully Motivated Dial bounces back. No OC is planning for one person on Chicago's defense. I don't know if we're planning for a person on your defense either there, Don Burr. I don't know if we're planning. Listen, like Aiden Hutchinson, ball up top, he's a dog. But Aiden Hutchinson got a lot of pressure without a lot of sacks. Aiden Hutchinson is kind of bizarro Montez Sweat at this point, isn't he? Like, he gets all the pressures, but almost never gets to the quarterback, and a bunch of big plays happen because he doesn't get to the quarterback. And Montez Sweat is getting, the sack numbers, but isn't creating the pressures. I just feel like, that while he is very, very dangerous, if you ain't getting home in moments that it matters most, if you're not getting home in those fourth quarter moments where teams are driving down the field on you, that gets tough. That gets tough. Now, Jack Campbell, I'll give you. Jack Campbell is a problem. I'm a little concerned about Jack Campbell. I can't say that we're not game planning for nobody. Jack Campbell's a problem. I think that's going to be somebody that we're going to regret seeing for some time now. I'll give you that one. What else do we got? What do you see in Malik Muhammad? Listen, Malik Muhammad looks like he's somebody who was poised to take over. I think we were talking about Terrell Smith earlier when we were, breaking this down. Malik Muhammad looks like he's somebody who's poised to take over that second DB spot. I think that if you're Tyreek right now, that's the person that you should be concerned about the most because I think they drafted your replacement. I just do. I think they drafted your replacement. And you're going to have to fight off that guy the entire camp, and he might be too good for you to fight him off. We got Chargers fans in the building. Shout out to Isaiah Major. Not Isaiah Major from, who did Isaiah Major play for? Is that a Florida A&M player? Am I wrong on that? Y'all remember him? Isaiah Major? He was I did a prospect breakdown video on him in like the 2022 draft. I think it was 2022. I think it was a linebacker. Either way. What else we got here? Wilkins did a full standing split when he won the college championship. Yeah, I forgot about that. I actually forgot about that. Hey, yeah. He been a freaky frog for a little minute. What else do we got up in here, dog? What else do we got up in there? We have known knowns and known unknowns. That's funny. What time is it? 6 o'clock? I'm going to get up out of here, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Like I said, bro, like I can't do the fake, look at this Bears report here. So we'll probably do a couple of these over the next few days. We could do Bears, we could do Bulls, we could do whatever. But just to get content out to you guys, to make sure that you guys are, still tapped in with everything that we're doing here. But at the end of the day, like if you tapping into the content from guys that are just like the biggest news of all time, we just signed the savior of this team. Shout out to you. You gotta find something to scratch that itch somehow. Well, we got Crimson. Go Bears and FGB. 53 days away till Bears football returns. That is right. But we'll keep you guys posted with everything. I think my first day up at camp is the 29th. So early next week. So we'll see you guys later, man. As always, it is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love.